$2,500, huh? I got them stacks.
Wait, that's a police boat.
You just ruined the intro joke.
Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of our Building a Home Gym in a Budget series. Part 1 was building a home gym for under $1,000, which is quite the feat, but it can be done. Now we have $2,500, which is a substantial amount of money and opens up a lot of options for us. Just like before, that $2,500 is brand new, taxed, and shipped to your door. Based on that amount of money, realize there's a lot of companies and I can't possibly cover them all. I'm going to give you the ones that are my favorites that I have the most experience with. There is also 11 categories of items we're going to cover, and for each category we're going to have kind of a low and a high range, and that's based on price and quality to give you some choices. When it comes to choices, you're going to have to make those based on your lifting style and kind of the space you have to work with. And also there are some affiliate links in the description, so I will try to indicate which of those are affiliate links, and realize if you choose to purchase something based on one of those links, you are supporting the channel and I appreciate it a lot. Now let's get into number 1, the barbell. The old barbell talk. We've all been there, right? Awkwardly sitting there at your parents' dining room table as they ask you if you use protection. And of course you tell them you bought the best barbell you could. Well, rather than relive those old memories, which is basically me talking about the Ohio Power Bar or the Ohio Bar or the Rogue Bar 2.0, which are still my top picks in this price range, that is for powerlifting or general lifting, I'm gonna bring in the new contenders. From Fringe Sport, the Wonder Bar. In the red corner, weighing in at 20 kilograms or 15 kilograms if you want the female variation. This is a solid all-around bar with a lot of options. You have the men's version weighing 20 kilograms and a 28 millimeter shaft, whereas the women's version is 15 kilograms and 25 millimeters. Another great touch is I can pick the bushing or bearing variant depending on the style of lifting I do. It's a fairly stiff bar, and the knurling is an average aggressiveness, which makes it a pretty good all-around bar. It does come in a full black zinc, which makes it look like a pretty mean bar, and I do like black zinc like my Ohio bar, but it does tend to wear away. Now Fringe does make other good bars, so if you want to shop around on their website, they have a lot of options. Next, let's bring up the Rep Gladiator. Here you're going to find a lot of similar options that you just saw in that Fringe bar. The 28 or 25 millimeters on the shaft for males or females, the 20 kilogram or 15 kilogram weight, and it's going to have a decent whip, good spin, and very similar knurling from the bar before. Now I have to note there's 3 versions of the Gladiator, so make sure when you're shopping you get the one you want. You have the stainless steel variant, but it's a little out of our price range at a base price of $400 before shipping and handling. Then there's the bearing bar called the WL. It's going to have needle and composite bushings, which is going to give you a good spin. It has a center knurling, and it comes in a hard chrome finish, which is a really good finish when it comes to scratches and getting marred up. And the final version is the Gladiator MX. So instead of being 28 millimeters, it's 28.5 millimeters. It doesn't have the center knurling, and it has 5 needle bearings on each side, so it's going to have a really good spin. Listen, there's a lot of good companies making great barbells now. Those are just the ones I have the most experience with and I've beat on a little bit and I recommend, but you can look in a lot of places for really great barbells. Now let's get to the power rack. Well, here we are again, and things are getting awkward, just like with that reminder of that talk with your parents. And I bet you he's probably going to ask you to subscribe. This is kind of weird, huh? Maybe we should just move on and get into power racks. So when it comes to power racks, your range now is about $500 to $750, which is a lot of money. It's a good chunk of your budget, but it does open up some nice options. First, let's start with Titan Fitness with the T3 rack, which is something a few of my friends own and I've spent a lot of time in. It's gonna run you about $500 to $600 depending how you configure it. And the nice thing about it, besides that price, is it comes with the options for a ton of attachments. And you can probably use the Rogue Infinity attachments because that's pretty much what I do with my Rogue rack, except with Titan attachments. Just make sure you do your research each time to make sure it's gonna fit. It's essentially the same exact rack I have here, except instead of Rogue, it's Titan quality, and there is a big quality difference, but Titan has come a long way in their power racks, And based on that price, it's a pretty good deal. If you want to step it up from there, I'd go to the Titan X3, which would run you about $600 to $700 depending on your configuration and which version you pick. There's the bolt down version that you would anchor to your floor, and there's the flat foot version that would stand alone on its own. The 3x3 is nice because your rack is now a square and you can put your attachments in more areas. They can face outward or inward or to the side. And the 5/8 inch hardware is a good industry standard, so you're able to leverage not only Titan's attachments, but other companies like Rogue's as well. Now, if you do want to look at a Rogue rack in this price range, the first one I'd look at is the RML90 Slim. Being a monster light rack, you have that 3x3 tubing and that 5/8 in hardware. It's gonna run you about $489 with shipping, handling, and tax by the time you put that pull-up bar on there, which you definitely should. It's essentially two monster light uprights that get bolted to a wall. Because of the style of that rack, I would 100% get the safety spotter arms to go with it. It's gonna cost you about another $200, which makes that rack around $700, but it does get you into the Rogue line. And honestly, you could spend a ton of time on Rogue's website. They have a lot of variations of racks that might work for you, like the R3W, but really most of them are probably gonna push us out of that price range. So next up, I'd like to look at the Rep Fitness PR4000. It starts around $640, but honestly, by the time you ship it, it's gonna push us well over our range. It cost me about $860 to my door. So why are we still talking about it? Well, it's actually an incredibly good rack. I'd put it right under the Rogue Monster Light. They have a ton of attachments and options for it. And if you can cut elsewhere, it's something I would seriously debate even in this price range. Now I'm getting pretty sick of standing, so we might as well go to benches so I can take a seat, which is a place we're gonna have a lot of options. For benches, we'll cover flat benches and adjustable benches, and our price range will range from about $135 to about $360, but it is one of those areas that you could push your price range up a little bit if you wanna reach and then cut from another area. And what are you looking at? Well, that's nothing. That's from our 1,000 subscriber special. It's definitely nothing to worry about. So let's just move on. So for flat benches, I would start with the Titan flat bench at $135 with a 1,000 pound capacity. It also comes with wheels and a handle, which really should be standard on all these benches because they really help when moving things around. From there, I'd go to the FB5000, which I've talked about a lot. I will link my FB5000 video in the description below. I would suggest watching that because I covered that and all the pad options for it. It's honestly the best bench out there in my opinion for the money, but in that video I cover a lot of other benches as well. Which brings us to adjustable benches, and there's gonna be a lot of tiers there. So let's start with the AB3000. It's not our cheapest option from Rep Fitness, but is a solid option nonetheless. It's adjustable to 7 positions, and that's including flat, incline, and decline. It's got a 1,000 pound capacity. The ladder system for adjustment works well, and with wheels and weighing in at about 95 pounds, it's not that bad to move around. Now it does cost $279, and by the time you put shipping and handling, for me anyway, it pushes us to the max of that limit of $355. So from there, we could cut costs a little bit and look at the AB3100, which is essentially the AB3000 without the decline, which brings us to 6 positions instead of 7. You have 3 seat positions, has the same 1,000 pound capacity, and with wheels, it's not terrible to move around, and it's gonna save you about $60 by the time you factor in shipping and handling. Now from there, you'd have to really break the budget to reach, and if you did, and I would recommend the bench I have, which is the AB5000. This thing is an absolute tank. The zero gap is a nice touch. It's worth its weight in gold. It's incredibly well made, and you can get an optional decline attachment, which I own. At $575, it's definitely blowing up the budget, but if you didn't reach for a power rack, this is something I would debate reaching for. Though I gotta say, it's pretty heavy, and Winnie complains all the time how much of a pain it is to move, so that's something you wanna keep in mind. If you want to reach a little bit less, you could look at the AB5200. And if you couldn't figure it out, Rep makes really good benches. This one, you can get a spotter deck for it. I don't think I'd ever need that, but it's an option. You can switch it out for a wide pad, which is an awesome touch. The ladder works really well. It's still got a 1,000 pound capacity. You have 7 back positions and 3 seat positions, but at 125 pounds, it's actually heavier than the AB5000. And at that weight, of course, it has wheels. Now it is $470, and to get it shipped to your house is probably about $540. So again, we're really reaching, and it is, like I said, real heavy. But if you want to get into the real heavy stuff, we can talk about plates. Our fourth category is going to be Olympic weight plates, but really it should probably be your last category. You can buy them whenever you want, but what I mean by that is our budget is $500 plus, meaning you're going to have to spend basically every remaining dollar you have if you want a full set of weight plates. If you're interested in the different types of plates, machined plates, rubber plates, urethane plates, or bumper plates and different types of bumper plates, I will link my which type of plates video in the description below. And now gets to the exciting part where you're thinking, can I finally get those Rogue deep dish? No. And honestly, I can't really afford them either, but sometimes you overspend. But we have a lot of good options for cast iron plates. So first, let's look at Rep Fitness's cast iron plates. I actually own these in the past, and I gotta say, overall, they're actually really good for the price. There were some inconsistencies in finish between some of the plates. So my 5s, for example, might have been more glossy than my 10s. The only real issue I had with them, because they're actually pretty good quality, is that the 45s were bigger than normal diameter. So when I was deadlifting and stuff, they were actually a tiny bit bigger than my bumpers, so it annoyed me. But with the 3% weight tolerance, they're actually really solid weights. And for the price, I'm not sure you can beat them. But you could look at Titan Fitness's iron plates. They again have a really good price per pound ratio, probably the best you can get at this quality range. And they have a 2% weight tolerance, which is a little better than the average budget plate. Though I have to say, I have seen some outside of that spec. And the silver hammer tone finish does look good, but just like a lot of powder coats and stuff, it will chip off. And with either of those options, and even if you're gonna mix bumpers and iron plates, what I would do is get a set of 2.5s, a set of 5s, 2 sets of 10s, a set of 25s, and basically, and this is where that plus comes in, as many 45s as you need and you can afford. And just like anything else, buy the best you can. Now let's talk a little bit about bumpers. So bumpers, there's a lot of options. Let's start again with Rep Fitness and their colored bumpers. I was able to get a set of 45s and 25s with shipping, handling, and tax for about $380, which is really pushing our budget. But in my experience, I own these for a long time. They're a really good bumper for the price. You can also look at their 160-pound set, which is 45s, 25s, and 10s. It's actually a few dollars less if you can get it in stock, and you get that extra set of 10s to come with it for basically free. Now from there, I'd probably look at their black bumpers. They're actually a little bit cheaper at around $360 to your door with a 3% tolerance. And they have a hook insert in the middle like Fringe Sport, which we'll get to in a minute because that's a really good option. Though if you want a budget pick, I'd probably look at Titan Fitness's Pound Economy bumpers. A set of 45s and 25s is gonna cost you $245, and pound for pound, that is the cheapest one I would go with. They have that 450 millimeter diameter, that standard 17.75 diameter, so you know it's gonna fit and work with your other plates. And honestly, dollar for dollar, they're a lot better than I thought they would have been. They're pretty good. From here, I go to Fringe, which actually has a lot of really good bumper options. First, I'd look at their black bumpers. For a set of 45s and 25s, it's $336, and all of their prices are with shipping, handling, and tax included. Or you could look at the 160-pound set, which is a few more dollars, but throws in the 10s as well. And the big selling point for me on all Fringe Sport bumpers is the steel insert has hooks on it, and they consistently do this with all of their bumpers. So if you have ever used a cheap bumper over years of time, that insert will work itself out, and there's not really any great fixes for it. So that's one of the reasons I really recommend Fringe when it comes to their bumpers. Now they also have the Savage bumpers, which is kind of like those Rogue Flex where they have those colors going through them, and they look really sick with kind of that tiger design. They're not much more money, and they have a 1% weight tolerance, which is pretty good. And of course, they have the steel insert with the hooks. Now from there, they do have the color in their contrast bumpers. They're actually really nice looking, highly recommended, but probably a little bit out of our price range. Now we can also look at some of the bumpers that Rogue offers, like the mil spec, where you can get 10s, 25s, and 45s, depending how far you are from Rogue, for about $355. And if you're looking around on Rogue, you might as well take a look at their Flex, but good luck getting them in stock, or the Echoes. They're both really good options, but just like the Reps, they're kind of pushing our budget. Now from here, let's take a look at the pride and joy of every gym, the dumbbell. Here we are again where I spend most of my time in the gym, debating why I didn't budget better. So I'm not sure I'd take my budget advice on this one, but if you want to, I would say $250 to $400, and that's whether you go fixed or adjustable. Just realize if you go fixed, there's no way in hell it's ever gonna fit in this budget range. but you could piece it together. Now, from there, I would probably look at Titan Fitness first because you could get a set of 5 to 25 pound dumbbells shipped to your door for $250. The reason I recommend Titan is that you don't pay for shipping, so it's real easy to piecemeal it later on. Now, if you're hell-bent on fixed dumbbells, I'm telling you, there's no way you're gonna afford it in this range, but you can be like me and live the dream of missing, a couple. I would recommend Rep or Rogue, and I own both. I will link my dumbbell video below in the description. If I had to pick one, I would actually pick Rep, and that's only because of their lifetime warranty on their dumbbells. They're both really great choices. A more practical choice would be an adjustable dumbbell like the PowerBlock Elite. The base cost is $330, but it's about $400 to your door, so that's the max budget. The nice thing about the PowerBlock Elites is that you can add on tiers later on to get 50 to 70 pounds or 70 to 90 pounds. They also have a limited 10-year warranty, which is a pretty killer warranty. From there, if you want to shave a few dollars off your budget, I'd look at the Bowflex 552. They go from 5 to 52.5 pounds, and at $350, they're a pretty good budget option. My only argument against them is that no matter what weight increment you're using, 5 or 10 pounds, whatever, you always have this kind of large, unwieldy dumbbell that you're carrying with you. Adjustable dumbbells are a good way to save space and money, and that's really important in this budget range. Now let's talk about kettlebells. Listen guys, it's getting late. I've been doing this all day and I can't come up with any jokes. The best I could come up with is something with a tea kettle, and I didn't even put anything on the table. So we're just gonna run with it. When it comes to kettlebells, I'd go for about $125 to $250. I would personally look for 20 pounds, 35 pounds, and 50 to 53 pounds. And for my budget pick, I would pick Titan Fitness's cast iron kettlebells. For those 3 weight increments, it's $120 total, which makes them the cheapest by far, which honestly we know from Titan can be a good or a bad thing. They are constructed from one solid piece, and honestly the quality is a lot better than I thought it would be. If you do want to upgrade with Titan, I would go to their competition kettlebell line. If you're not sure what a competition kettlebell is, it means that every single weight has the same size handle. It's also going to have a better weight tolerance and in general going to be a better quality. For all 3 of those weight increments, it would be $195. And they are color coded, which makes them a lot easier to identify. From there, I go to Fringe Sports Prime line, which has a black matte powder coat with a color-coded band, a machined base, and in my experience, they have fast shipping. So for those 3 kettlebells, it's going to cost you about $235. Remember that their shipping is factored into their price already. If you want, you can also look at their sets to save a little bit more money and get some different increments. Now, if you want to look at a different one in that price range, we can look at Rep Fitness's kettlebells. This is their cast iron line, which is color coded and runs from 4 to 48 kilograms or 9 to 106 pounds. And though they look inexpensive, it cost me about $100 to get those 3 kettlebells shipped to my door. So it cost right about the same as Fringe. Now, if you want, you can look at Rogue because that is in our price range, and they have 2 options. You have the E-Coat, which has the same finish as my deep dish, which I love. They're also made of that same ductile iron, which is a step up in quality. They're made in the USA, and they have that Rogue quality, which is a big deal to me. And you can also look at their powder coated line. Both of these lines are gonna run you about $250, and that's shipped to your door. Now, if you want a little more versatility or at least different weight increments, and you wanna save some space, and probably some money, you can look at adjustable kettlebells. So there's a pretty good line from Rep, and there's actually 3 different weight tiers. It has this push twist top lever system to release the weights. It's powder coated and it comes with a rubber bottom. And depending which option you get, when you ship them to your door, it's gonna be about $165 to $240. From there, Titan actually has an adjustable competition kettlebell system. You vary their weight by changing the 6 plates on the inside. I'll be honest, the interior weights are cheap and they're not stamped with their weight, which is a complaint I have of them. You adjust it by removing an Allen screw in the bottom. The metal shell then comes apart in the middle, giving you access to the weights. Now you're sacrificing a little bit of quality in the machining and the finish for the versatility there. You get a pretty good weight range. It's a pretty good bargain. You have to kind of weigh if that's the type of system you want. Now let's go on to 7, 8. I have no idea where we're at this point, but we're going to talk about bands. For resistance bands, we have a pretty wide range from about $30 to $100. Now on the low range, I would still go with my Canways, which I've been using for years. They're really great and they come with 4 bands. It gives you a lot of versatility. Now, the reason the range can go so high is because then I'm going to serious steel. Here you can buy bands individually or in sets, and you'll find a wider range of resistances. On the low end, 2 to 15 pounds, and then the high end, 60 to 150 pounds. The reason I like them is because I can buy 2 of the same band if I wanted to do banded bench work, for example. Or when I buy their set, I don't have to buy the exact 4. I can buy 2 or these 3 or whatever. It just gives you a lot more options, and they're really high quality. Realizing, of course, Rep and Rogue and other companies will have bands as well. Now let's move on to Gymnast Rings. I couldn't think of an interesting way to shoot this one, so I just stood up. Sorry, I don't actually have my rings as we know from the past, but now they are on order and they're on their way in. So who am I to recommend you rings? Well, I had a buddy who was a gymnast and a CrossFitter, and we did a ton of ring work, so I got pretty good with it. And I personally think they're a great way to hit your muscles, and they can be very difficult to work with, but I think that's in a good way. You're gonna hit things differently than what you're used to. To me, with rings, there's only 2 material choices, wood or steel. I know there's plastic, but it's not my preference, so we're gonna push that to the side for now. Steel is if you want to go outside. They're a little harder on your hands. They're really heavy and sturdy, and they're pretty good. It's just not my #1 choice. I prefer wood. They're better in your hands. You don't need chalk. They're not gonna chew up your hands as much. They're really pretty to look at, but you are forced to keep them inside. For my budget pick, I go straight to Titan. Who would have guessed? For $35 to $40, you can pick their 1.1 to 1.25 inch rings. They have a 1.5 inch strap, and they have that classic cam buckle design. From there, you can upgrade to Rep, which is going to be about $50. They, of course, have the same options, 1.1 to 1.25 inch rings, but their 1.5 inch straps are numbered, which makes lining things up easier. If you want a third really good options, you can get the ones from Double Circle. They're $55, and it's a 1.25 inch ring with 1.5 inch straps, but they have nice embroidered numbers versus some that print them on there and they wear off. And they have a locking carabiner system where once you set the height, it can't slip like some cam systems do. It's a really nice touch, and they're really high end, and they're actually my personal choice. Now let's do our last snippet where I just throw everything left in one. For our last categories, I'm gonna try to put all 3 of them into one clip, and that's not to do any disservice to them. It's that I've covered them in detail in other videos, which I will link below. So to make this a little quicker for you, we'll just do it all in one take, hopefully. First, at number 9, category number 9, would be your barbell collars. Now, there's basically tiers to these, and just like I said before, the low tier is kind of your clout fitness type knockoffs you would get on Amazon for around $10. They're really good. I use them all the time. I have multiple pairs. If you want to go up from there, I'd still recommend the Lockjaws, the Ollie 2s, or the Pro 2s for about $35 to $40. They're going to have a lot more holding power than that type of generic one. Probably worth the upgrade. The only difference in the $1,000 video to this one is I would now recommend the Rogue USA aluminums. They're $60, so they're pricey, but they blow the other ones out of the water when it comes to quality and holding power. I throw these things on for deadlift. It doesn't go anywhere, no matter how rough I am, and the other ones will slide. So I think it's probably worth the upgrade. From there, category number 10 would be cardio type stuff. I would still recommend at $2,500 unless you want to kill the rest of your items. Because honestly, to get a good air bike or something like that is going to take up a huge chunk of your budget. So I would still recommend doing a lot of running or body weight stuff, or just more intensity when you work up to get your heart level up. Though I do recommend the same jump ropes as before. That is, I actually found it this time, the WOD Nation speed rope. It's under 20 bucks. It's quality. It even comes with a second rope in case you burn up the first one. Or if you like a PBC style jump rope, you can go to the Deagle or Deggle. I still don't know how to say it. It's like $11. It's a killer bargain, really highly rated. Last but not least would be your flooring. And when it comes to flooring, at this point, I'm still probably just gonna spend $50 at a time and get my horse stall mats from Tractor Supply. And they're gonna look like this. Oh, I had no idea how gross these were when I put them on my lap and started this clip, but I guess I'm gonna live with it. So they get you about 24 square feet for about $50. They're rock solid, and if yours move around, put something heavy on them or tape them together. People do that a lot with black tape. Now, if you do want another option, I would go to American Floor Mats. They make a 3/8 24 by 24 inch interlocking tile that is really good. Though if there's something you want, you're gonna have to plan out or cut something else out of that budget because they are a little more expensive, though they do have different style options and they look amazing on your gym floor. I hope this video helped you out. There are a ton of options, like I said, in this price range. There are a lot of good companies. I couldn't cover them all, but I did spend a ton of time whittling them down to my favorites. So obviously from here, what you want to do is click my links and only my affiliate links. There are literally no other YouTubers out there. I'm the only one. So make sure you just buy stuff from me and ignore everybody else. You can trust me. I'll see you next week.